All right, you all. So look, I am here with Dr. Mache Seibel on today, and I'm super excited. You all know I love talking about menopause, but just not from my perspective. And a lot of times we do not get the male perspective, right? And so he's been diving into menopause, and we're going to hear some of that backstory of like what made you want to get more into this one word that so many women are fearful of. So many women are ashamed to have the conversations. So I hear people saying, oh my God, my doctor didn't even know I was in menopause. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm sweating. I'm having hot flashes. I'm having night sweats. I'm gaining weight and I don't even know why. And I'm running 4 or 5 miles and I'm still gaining and gaining. And so look, you all, we're talking about menopause, of course. So I'm your host, Carlika Katrina Basnight-Menendez. Yes, all of that. And you all look, it's warm here. When this air, I don't know what the temperature may be where you are, but I'm telling you now, look, humidity, 80 something plus degree weather and hot flashes don't go together. And I don't care if it's 20 degrees outside. When I'm having a hot flash, it really doesn't matter. I just want to stand out there. And so before we even talk to Dr. Seibel, let me tell you all, I was thrown into menopause at the age of 30. And I know I don't look like it. I know. And that's okay. And I get that a lot. And people are like, oh, you look too young to be in menopause. But I'm like, but I am. And I've probably been in it longer than you have. And so I was thrown into it after having a total hysterectomy, like I said, at the age of 30. So I remember sitting there feeling less of a woman, right? Because all of the uterus, everything is gone, right? So if you all know what a total hysterectomy is, no ovaries, no uterus, no cervix, none of my reproductive organs. And so I was like, oh my God, I feel less than a woman. But I remember having my first hot flash. I was standing in the middle of my living room floor and I literally started radiating from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And I was like, what in the heck is going on here? I'm looking around like, okay, I had a lot of pamphlets. I had Google, of course. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, but it's nothing compares to when you're in that moment and you really start experiencing the symptoms that you see all on the internet, right? And so I looked around and all I wanted to do was run and jump in a freezer, like butt naked, like for real. I was like, oh my God, is this what I just signed up for? How long is this going to go on? What else? Who can I talk to? And I didn't have anyone to talk to, right? I couldn't go back and contact the doctor really, because she had gave me all the pamphlets probably in the office. So who could I turn to? All I had was myself. I would talk to other women and they're like, oh, you'll be okay. It's just a personal summer. And I'm like, well, how long are these personal summers going to last? So all of the things that no one really told you about. So we talk about puberty. We all get there. But then it's like it just falls off and you don't hear anything else that after puberty and once you don't have a menstrual cycle, or maybe it's medical, or maybe it's surgical, or maybe you get there naturally, menopause, what it is, what it's all about outside of the symptoms. So for me, it was even more mental, right? There's so many ways that you can manage your menopause. But for me, it was the mental side. And so we're going to be talking to Dr. Seibel. He has a new book that will be coming out in a few weeks or so. And so you want to make sure that you're connected with him so that you can get that information when his book drops. And so let me just give you a little background from Dr. Seibel. And so look, you all, he's definitely the expert. He's helped over 10,000 women. Yes, you heard me. 10,000 women feel better and look better in menopause and beyond, because there is life, right? A lot of people think it's like a death sentence when you say I'm in menopause, and I'm just like, no. And you all don't take my word for it. Go to Google. Look at the pictures that you see when you type in menopause. Everyone looks so depressed and sad. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to look like that. I might have to I might have to fan a little bit, but I'm not going to walk around looking depressed. And so he is a 25-year Harvard Medical School faculty member, author of 2 best-selling books, and getting ready to have another one come out shortly, The Estrogen Window, and the Estrogen Fix, you all, because it's all about our hormones. And so he's the founder and publisher of the Hot Years magazine. Now, if that's not a title all by itself, that makes me feel empowered and equipped to say, you know what? Yes, these are the hottest years of my life, literally and mentally, emotionally, physically, and all the things. And so he has the best menopause blog. So you all, what I'm saying is he's all in. So you can go to drmache.com/blog, read the blog, get the information. And his latest book is Working Through Menopause. Its impact on women, businesses, and the bottom line. And I can't wait to dive into this particular aspect of it because I'm dealing with so many things right in the workplace as well. And people don't understand, or maybe they don't care. I don't really know. But I let it be known that, hey, look, I'm having a hot flash. I need to go outside a minute or whatever. So welcome. He has published over 200 scientific articles and 18 books for both professionals and consumers. And he has received multiple awards, you all. He's a very sought out speaker. I was looking on the internet, of course. He spoke at NASA and all of these amazing places. And so welcome, welcome, welcome. I feel honored to be able to just be talking with you today about this one word, right? This one, it's kind of a long word too, but this one word. So Dr. Seibel, welcome. And I just want to say thank you.
It's my pleasure, Carlita. Nice to be here and nice to be with you. And, I have been through menopause. I've been through menopause over 10,000 times because I have helped over 10,000 women get through menopause, including my own wife. And one of the reasons that I got into menopause, I'll share you a story with you. I began my career doing some of the first test tube babies in vitro fertilizations in the country. I did the first one in Massachusetts and some of the first ones in the United States. But what happened was a study came out about 20 years ago or so that said that estrogen and hormones could cause breast cancer and heart disease and other problems. It turns out that information wasn't accurate, but that didn't stop a lot of women, about a generation of women, from not being comfortable taking hormones. In the meantime, my wife had surgery that threw her into early menopause just a few months after that study came out, and her doctors were reluctant to give her hormones. So I transitioned from the fertility side to the menopause side so I could figure this out for her and my patients so she wouldn't have to tough it out. And that's where I've been firmly planted since, trying to understand as much as I can to help women transition into and through menopause so they can enjoy their life and feel empowered to be a partner with their healthcare provider.
Wow. I love that, simply because, and that really resonated with me because I felt like I was robbed because I did not have really the opportunity to make a sound decision for myself as what treatment plan would be best for me. And so when HRT, hormone replacement therapy, was presented to me and different things, it just wasn't presented. I mean, it literally scared me. So you're talking to a 30-year-old woman, right? And I'm just like, and 30 years old, who was still recovering from being anorexic. So the first thing that the doctor said, and this is literally the only thing I remember in that conversation, it will make you gain weight. And I was like, oh, I definitely don't want it. And between weight gain and cancer, those were the two things that stuck out to me when she said that. And it scared me. Why? Because I had my grandmother pass away from cancer, and other people that I've known. And I was just like, well, I'll just, like you said, tough it out. Right? I'll tough it out.
A lot of women are toughing it out. And the problem with toughing it out is that you don't have to. You do not have to. First of all, the data on cancer has been disproven. The trick about it, and I write about that in my book, The Estrogen Fix here, that the facts of the matter is that when they did that study where they found there was more problems in women who took hormones,
Mhm.
What they didn't realize is at that time is that there were so many women currently on hormones, they had trouble getting enough women into the study. And the study was supposed to be for women in their 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Wow.
So when they tried to get the women in, the way it turned out was the women who got the hormones were in their 60s and 70s, most of them, 75% were in their 60s and 70s. And the women who got the sugar pill were in their 50s. So the study ended up comparing women in their 50s who were taking nothing but the sugar pill to women in their 60s and 70s who were taking the hormone. And so they thought the problem was with the hormone. But when they later on took the same data, the same exact women, the same information, but just matched them for ages, all the problems went away. And they made a design flaw. They made a mistake in the study. And also, the women in that study were supposed to be well women. It was for women who didn't have any problems. But many of the women in that study were smokers, they were overweight, they had high blood pressure, and they had diabetes. And all of those four things contribute to both heart disease and cancer. So if you eliminate all those things and you eliminate being 20 years older or 10 years older, all of a sudden the hormones didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, if you take estrogen only, which is what women who have a hysterectomy need, they don't need both pills. They don't need estrogen and progesterone. You only need one hormone, just estrogen. The risk of breast cancer actually goes down, and the risk of heart disease goes down if you start it near the time of your hysterectomy.
Wow.
The other thing is that you don't gain weight with hormones. They've shown that is not a fact. You do from aging. As you get older, it's harder to stay trim, but that's a separate fact from hormones.
Wow. Wow. So it's just sometimes the misinformation. And that's why we have to have reputable sources when we're looking and researching and trying to find the right answers, right? So once again, thrown into it. So you said when you have the hysterectomy, so when is it ever just too late for a woman to actually start if she's just been toughing it out?
Well, the safest time to take hormones is within 10 years of the time you go into menopause. In other words, you want to try and start it before you're 10 years into menopause. So for most women who go naturally into menopause, then that's usually around age 51. Although about 5 to 10% of women go into menopause before they're 45 naturally, and about 1% goes into menopause before they're 40. So it does happen anyway. But if you go into menopause early, in other words, like at 30, then the best time to take that or start that is when you're 30, or within the 10 years after that, as close to the time of menopause as you can. That's the safest time to start it. Can you still take it? It depends. Then it becomes kind of one-on-one. What other medical problems do you have? What other issues do you have? Now, you can take hormones that go to your whole body. Usually those are a pill, or they're on your skin, they're a patch, or they're a cream, something like that. If you take it locally, like just in the vagina, the birth canal, you can take that forever, whenever. You can start at any time, because even women who have breast cancer, estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, they have a report from the Gynecology Association, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and they show that if you take vaginal estrogen, it stays pretty much local. A little gets in the bloodstream, but not enough to make a difference. And that does not increase the risk of breast cancer at all, or death if you have breast cancer. Wow. So most women can take it locally in the vagina. And if you start it within 10 years, or starting within 10 years of the beginning of menopause, then it's pretty safe to take.
Wow, that's really, really, really refreshing and good news for our listeners and everyone, because so many people are so afraid of taking. So a
Yeah,
lot of
they
people
are.
now are looking for so many holistic remedies. And so, I mean, people are just like literally afraid of taking any hormone, any estrogen. Like, I hear the conversation, they're like, oh no. And once again, I love what you said, toughen it out. But how do we really tough it out when you're sitting at work and you haven't got a lot of sleep or different things? You're waking up like a newborn baby all night long. You're trying to tough it out at home, and it's affecting. Let me ask you this then. Before you started really diving in for the research to figure out a way to really help your wife and your clients, did it have an effect on your relationship? Because I'm hearing women and they're like, oh my God, like some have gotten divorced because of rage and different things that's going on. Of course, their sex life and different things, they're like, is not the same. So what is your take on that?
Well, first of all, there's two different menopauses as you've talked about. One is one you go into on your own without any surgery or anything like that. That's generally a little bit older for most women, but as I said, it can happen earlier. And then there's surgery. The difference, if you have your total hysterectomy, if you have your uterus or your womb and your ovaries taken out and you're still having periods, well, you just go right into menopause. I mean, like yesterday, you weren't in menopause. Today, you're in menopause. And that's a real drop in estrogen. It's like you're walking out in the water and all of a sudden, boom, you go in a hole and you just drop straight in. The cold water's cold. When you get into natural menopause, it happens over time, gradually. So it's kind of like walking out in the water a little at a time. You kind of get acclimated to it. Still, it's challenging. How does it affect relationships? Well, it depends on the relationship. If it was bad to begin with, it's going to get worse. And if it was good to begin with, it's going to stay okay. Yeah. The thing is that for many women, they have less control over the way they feel. First of all, they're not sleeping. When you're tired as a dog, you're not going to be at your best. You're not going to be able to remember things as well. You're not going to be able to have patience with people. You're not going to be able to interact quite as nicely as you might want. Sleep is a big issue. It is. But also there's actually impact that estrogen has on the brain, which can cause a woman to feel less interested in sex. It can cause her to be forgetful. It can cause her to have trouble recalling the words she wants to say. I was talking to a lady, and she was saying her husband told her to pick up some dog food on the way home from work. She gets home from work, and he says, "Did you get the dog food?" She said, "Not only did I forget the dog food, I forgot to pick up the kids." It's like people just can't remember. They have a hard time. That does go away. A lot of women worry they get in dementia or Alzheimer's. A lot of women worry about that. Right. But almost always that's not what it is. It's usually just a change, and wow. You will pass through that window, and it'll be easier if you treat your symptoms because you will get better sleep and you'll have more control.
Wow. So this even takes us into your new book, right? And so going through menopause, and women are still in corporate, they're still on their 9-to-5s and all of these amazing things. But so many women, I've talked to women who have actually just left because they said it became too much for them. There's some who are still there working their 9-to-5s, working in corporate America, and they feel like they're suffering in silence because a lot of employers I think a lot of women are looking for empathy, right? But then it's that feminist and it's that judgment zone of, okay, I don't want to look like I'm too needy, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to be labeled in all of these different things. And so how do we work through it? And even for companies, right? Like you said, with their bottom line, typically you're losing people that's been there for a while. You're losing women who are at the peak of their career and different things. So walk us through that, especially with your new book coming out.
Right. It's called Working Through Menopause. And if you went to if you go to workingthroughmenopause.com, it'll take you to my landing page there, and it will you'll have access to the book as soon as it comes out, but you'll be very shortly. But to answer your question, it's a real challenge. People don't want to be in menopause for a lot of reasons. One, there's a lot of people who joke about it and think it's funny. Men will do that a lot. They'll say, "Oh, she must be low in her hormones, or she must be going through the change or something." Well, that's really a very sexist, discriminating kind of thing. And it's perfectly inappropriate, but it does happen. So women are reluctant to talk about it. A lot of times they have human resource people at work who are younger than them, and they don't have any idea. You talk to the average 25-year-old woman about your hot flashes or the issues you're going through. Like you said, there's the talk about your first period, but there's no talk about your last period. Yeah. Nobody knows what to expect, so they're not thinking about it. But what happens is in the United Kingdom, in England, they had a study that came out that showed just in that country, which is not nearly as big as the United States, they had almost 1 million women drop out of the workforce recently because of menopause. They couldn't cope with the symptoms and they were having trouble and challenges. And it cost the country, it cost the businesses about $140 billion because they had to replace those women. They took a lot of the wisdom that they had gained by being in middle or starting to really go into the upper parts of their working career. And they didn't want to deal with the challenges. There's no work policies in place at businesses. There's not a real opportunity to acknowledge it. And, they don't have accommodations. You can't adjust the temperature where you work. There may not be enough bathrooms where you work. If you don't feel well and you want to come in at a different time, the schedules aren't flexible. Although recently people have been working remote, people have been having their own schedules, and that is changing because of circumstance. But generally speaking, in business, it's 9 to 5. And if you're having a bad night from not sleeping or other reasons, there's not a lot of flexibility. So there needs to be more understanding of it. And they had another study that showed that women who had hot flashes that weren't treated had on average 6 more doctor's visits a year than women with hot flashes that were treated. So women miss more time at work because they have to go to the doctor to see what's wrong. And a lot of times when you're having these things, you may think, people will have like palpitations in their chest. They see a cardiologist. They may have a sensitive bladder. They go see a urologist for their bladder. They may have problems where they can't remember and they think they're having dementia. They go see a neurologist. They may be depressed or anxious. They go see a psychiatrist, and they've been to 5 doctors before they come to somebody that can help them understand, hey, this is just normal. You're going through menopause and, you just need to address that problem.
Wow. Right. Because I don't think a lot of people realize that it can be financial, right? Because you're seeing all these specialists or women who are, you're always running to Walmart or CVS or your local, just trying to get whatever you can get over the counter and different things, or going on the research to find a menopause specialist, right? Because all of your OBGYNs are not trained just for menopause or can really even give that insight sometimes.
Only 20% of OBGYNs get formal training in menopause. And that all started about 20 years ago when this study came out, the Women's Health Initiative. And so hormones got in the doghouse. And then what ended up happening is that at the same time, they were cutting back training hours spent in training because they didn't want people to work, like 100 hours a week and stuff like that. So they cut back on the amount of time. And the first thing that went was menopause. And so now there's not that much training in it. So it's very difficult. And it's important to get the information, because if you don't want to take hormones, that's okay. I'm not pushing hormones. Right. But I am pushing that you get treated, because there are many treatments there, the hormones, and then there's the hormone therapy alternatives. And there are lifestyle things that you can do, and what you eat matters, and how you sleep matters, and how much stress you're dealing with matters. And all of those things matter, whether you take hormones or you don't. And you need to have help working through all these, because I believe you have to take care of the sum of you and not just some of you. Otherwise, you don't end up feeling as good as you can.
Oh, I love that. Taking care of the sum of you and not just some of you. And that's what so many of us do. We take care of some of us and not the whole well-being of everything. And that's why I say menopause, you can come from so many angles of it, right? It's mental. It's mental, it's financial, it's physical, it's lifestyle changes as well. Like I said earlier, so many people are trying to find those holistic remedies. The thing is, menopause is not a one size fits all. So
no, everything works for some people and nothing works for everyone. Right. And so what you have to do is try to work with your healthcare provider and find something that works for you. I know that many people will try, one thing and another thing, or two things or five things, if they're not going to take hormones. And what I recommend is, if you are going to try something on your own, that you try one thing at a time. Because if you try two things or three things and it helps you, you don't know which one of them or all of them that you needed. So you try one thing at a time. In 3 months, you'll know it's either helping you or it's not. If it's not helping you, then try another thing. But I don't recommend people mix and match. Right. And most important, when you talk with your healthcare providers, make sure that you talk with them about what you can be doing. Because back to the sum of you and not some of you, if you take hormones, that's going to go to almost every cell in your body, and that's going to help many things that you're aware of, what I call the noisy symptoms, like the hot flashes or the sensitive bladder. That's happening, but it doesn't impact. It also impacts on the silent symptoms. In other words, the things you don't know, like heart disease or your bones are thinning. So when you go and don't take estrogen, you're only impacting one symptom. In other words, say you take something for hot flashes. Right. Okay, that might help your hot flashes. But even if it does, it's not helping your heart. It's not helping your bones. It's not helping your bladder. It's not helping your skin. It's not helping anything else. So you've got to work to put together a group of things that work for you, for the sum of you, because otherwise you're leaving part of you untreated. Right. And heart disease is going to kill 10 times more women than breast cancer is. And every woman I know is afraid of breast cancer, and they should be. But only 4% of women die of breast cancer, but 55% of women die of heart disease. So it's over 10 to 12 times as many women. So it's very important that you have protection for the parts of you that are quietly having a problem. Now, in the Black community, hot flashes are worse than it is in other communities. Yeah. On the other hand, also, in the Black community, they tend to have denser bones, so they're less likely to get osteoporosis, but it still happens. Osteoporosis meaning thinning of the bones. It still happens, but less than it is in the white community or other communities. And also in the Black community, a lot of women have been under the impression that that menopause is a natural phenomenon. So why do you treat something natural? But the fact of the matter is that 100 years ago, 120 years ago, women were only living to be around 48. That was the average length of age in 1900. Today, you're going to live a third of your life in menopause. And so you want to do things that make you feel good, so you last a long time, but it doesn't feel like a long time. That's what you want to happen.
I love that. And you're right. And I'm glad you even brought up the women of color, right? Or just the African American Black community, women of color, all those grouped in that. And so There's definitely an underrepresentation, but I think it goes back to just the awareness, right? Letting people know that this information is out here and not being afraid to have the conversations. And so that's why I do what I do, because I'm just like, we're not having the conversations, whether it's from how you grew up or whatever the thing is, it's a part of life. And I often say menopause is not a disease, it's a transition, but it can lead to other diseases. It definitely, osteoporosis, all of these different things, cardiovascular issues, it can lead to other diseases, but you don't have to go, I don't believe we have to suffer. We don't have to be quiet. We don't have to just pretend that, hey, I'm too young. And you said something earlier, Dr. Seibel. You are so right. Because when I mentioned having a hot flash or anything at work, the 20-year-olds are looking at me like, what? And I'm like, yes, it's a hot flash. I need to go just cool off. But because of me even talking about it, they're more educated on it even now. And unfortunately, a lot of workplaces are not in the position or where they're putting the information. I can even, when we look at when COVID first hit, right? When the pandemic first hit, most workplaces did not have the infographics and things up about COVID, even though some of the things were basic information, such as wash your hands, right? This is things we already know, but they came out with so many different infographics with COVID, 6 feet, all of these things. So I'm looking around the workplace from when I was working in the hospital, when I taught school, worked in the school system, everything. And I'm like, I've never seen infographics. And most of these places are female dominated, especially in the school systems and differently. I'm like, right. Even when I went to health fairs, there was not a booth of anyone just talking about menopause. And I'm just like, right. Wow.
Well, it's a conversation that women should have, because if you look at the workforce, roughly half of the workforce is women.
Yeah.
If you look at the women, roughly half of the women are either in perimenopause, meaning the years leading up to menopause, or in menopause. And menopause, by definition, is 1 year after your last menstrual period. That's what natural menopause is. But it's not about age. It is about transition, because, as I said, even though that 51 is the typical age it happens, 5 to 10% of women, it happens at before 45, 1% before 40. So it can happen at any age. And the symptoms typically start up to 8 to 10 years before that. So you could be in your 30s and having symptoms. Now, if you're someone like you, where you had some issue going on and you had to have surgery at 30, well, that's a young woman to go through all that change. That's a long ways from when it might have happened. And that's a time when hormones are very high. So when you have that surgery and you suddenly don't have your hormones, you feel it a lot stronger.
Yeah.
And that's a special category. So you want to have attention to things that can be helpful to you, to support you when you're dealing with it, because you have, instead of having a third of your life after menopause, you're going to have 2/3 of your life after menopause. And you want to have support for that, so that that journey is as pleasant and as positive as possible.
Yes. And so I know we'll be wrapping up, because I definitely want to respect your time. And so some advice that you would give women who are saying, you know what, I'm not in menopause yet, but you're going to eventually get there. What are some things that women can do now, not just preparing for menopause, but like you said, so that you can have that support, you can have that community, you can have those conversations, and you can have better communication even with your healthcare provider? What are some things that you're like, you know what, start doing this now so that you can better, have maybe a better transition or whatever that looks like?
Well, that's a whole story, but I will tell you the cliff notes of it. Number one is, you cannot cram for life. Mm-hmm. You got to get habits that prepare you your whole life. Because if you take it a day at a time, from whatever day it is in your life today forward, you can start doing things to make you in the best shape you can be in.
Yeah.
So you want to start really focusing on, do you exercise? Even if it's 15 minutes, what can you do to just get a little bit off your backside and get out into the sunshine and into the fresh air and maybe just walk around the block? Do something. Housework is exercise. Gardening is exercise. Dancing is exercise. Do something every day, even if it's 15 minutes. Second thing is, what you eat is the fuel for every cell in your body. Mm-hmm. You're either giving yourself high octane gas or you're giving yourself low octane gas. So you want to feed your body the fuel that will keep you going the longest. So the more you can eat fruits and vegetables, the better you're going to be. And I would say you should try to eat that, at least as much of that in the servings every day, as much as you can.
Yes.
The third thing I would say is, you need socialization, where people are isolated today. So you have to make time to at least have a posse. Everybody needs a posse. They got to have girlfriends and friends that they can talk to. It's hard during this time of epidemic. It's very hard, but people need to have socialization. And even going to church and everything isn't as frequent these days. Everything's on Zoom with a lot of places, and you're just looking at a screen. So try to have contact with people. The next thing is, you want to try and get enough sleep. Sleep is very important. It contributes to a lot of health issues. Matter of fact, not getting enough sleep increases your risk of heart disease, diabetes, weight gain. Just a whole host of things happen when you don't get enough sleep. And it's hard to diet if you don't get enough sleep, because your body's fighting you hormonally. So sleep, and that means getting to bed at a certain time, getting up at the same time. Try to wind down before sleep. Don't watch the news before you go to sleep. Nothing good on the news. Read a book, take a bath, put on a nice candle and put some nice incense, some nice fragrance in there. Yeah. Listen to some music that relaxes you. Talk to someone you care about and cares about you. Do those things for bedtime. Stretch. Okay. Even stretching for 10 or 15 minutes has been shown to improve your sleep. And finally, try to get educated about the thing that you want to know about. So hormone therapy is very important, but there's all the other things about just knowing what to expect. I do have a magazine called The Hot Years, which is at hotyearsmag.com. It's a very good magazine. It's won some awards, and it gives you an opportunity to learn about what to expect in a simple way. But get educated so that you know what to expect, what's normal and what's not. So and when do you need help? So those are things that I would recommend.
I love that. You all, this has just been amazing. And so make sure you all grab the estrogen fix. Make sure you go to hotyearsmag.com, grab the magazine. Look, I'm telling you, the more you know now, even before you get into menopause, the better you will be. I'm telling you from my own experience, the better you will be. I wish I had a Dr. Seibel in my life. When I first was thrown into menopause due to a hysterectomy, but it's never too late to get the information. It's never too late to seek help. Whatever you do, don't suffer in silence, because you don't have to. We've heard it today, like, you don't have to tough it out. There's resources, there's information, there's ways to manage your menopause. And I say your menopause simply because it's not the same for everyone. And so whatever you do, you can grab that book, The Estrogen Window, as well. And then, of course, Working Through Menopause. So to the employers out there as well, this is going to be a book that you want to get as well, so that you don't have to lose employees, but you may just have to make a couple of adjustments, right?
It will help people keep the women in the workplace. That's why I wrote it, because people want to be it. They want to work. They want to be the best they can
Yes.
Workplace wants them to be there, but they don't realize they have a problem. And if they do, they don't know what to do about it. And that's what Working Through Menopause helps with.
And that is going to be an amazing book. I know I'll be grabbing my copy because I still do work full time. And so I've had some issues where I'm like, oh my God, I feel fatigued. Oh my goodness. I feel like I haven't slept good enough. And you're talking to someone who's going to work at 1 a.m. in the morning, right? So I'm going in, leaving my house around midnight to go to work and getting off in the morning. And so I've had those struggles where I've had to call out, right? But so many women are afraid to do that because they don't want to be fired, right? So it's so many other things going on in your mind, like, okay, if I call out too much, or do I go to the doctor and see if I can get a reduced schedule, or what does that really look like? And so you all want to make sure that you go to the landing page and everything. drmache.com. Nope, that's for the blog. Dr. Mache, let us know where we can go again for Working Through Menopause, so that when that comes out, we can grab it.
Yeah, you can find it on my website, but if you go to workingthroughmenopause.com, it'll be there. And you can find out about it. It'll be out very shortly. And I think it will help you if you are currently working. Mm-hmm. It will help you in your experience, because there's a lot of things that would benefit you to know about.
Yes. So you all, I'm excited about it. You know, I'm going to grab my copy. You all make sure you go to workingthroughmenopause.com. If you're looking for coaching, speaker, all of these things, consultant, Dr. Seibel is definitely menopausecoaching.com. It's the website. You can go there. Look around, browse, look for some of the articles, go to the blog, grab the magazine and different things, so that the more educated you are, the more equipped you will be, the more empowered you will be, not just for yourself, but for those even around you. Because though you might be the one going through menopause, or you will get there, it can affect everyone else around you, especially when you're having a mood swing or something and you don't even understand what is going on. And so I just want to say thank you. Once again, I respect your time, but I just want to say thank you for pouring into us, giving us your expertise on menopause, and even going into the backstory of his why of doing it. He said, I have to figure out something for the love of my life. And so that's real love right there. Not only for her, but for us too, for his clients and those, look, you're going to see this video, go to his website, get that information. You all remember we have MenoCon coming up next year, September 16th through the 17th of 2022. We are almost there in 2022. And this has been a year, but we're still here and we're still thriving. You can thrive in your menopause. You don't have to suffer in silence, because there are resources. There is education. There's things that you can do to manage that. And so MenoCon is all about that. It is the ultimate women's wellness conference. Once, like you heard Dr. Seibel say, don't just take care of some of you, but take care of all of you, right? Even those silent things that sometimes we're like, oh, I didn't even notice that, right? And so MenoCon 2022, you all, and this is a conference for all women of color. We're really putting out a clarion call for you, because we need to speak up about what's going on. We need to speak up and have the conversations. All women need to have the conversations, because I think the statistics are saying by 2025 or so, there will be X amount of billions of women in menopause. So we're all going to get there. We may not all.
There'll be 50 billion women in 2025.
Yeah, so 50 billion, right? And I was looking in menopause. So we have to keep getting the word out. We have to keep bringing more awareness to this one word that is changing women's lives every single day. So Dr. Seibel, I want to say thank you again. I really appreciate you all. Appreciate you. And you all make sure that you go to menopause.com, workingthroughmenopause.com to make sure you see that particular resource. But go to his website, look him up. As soon as you type his name on Google, he will come up. Click on those things and find the resources so that you can educate yourself, so that you are able to have the conversations with your loved ones and your healthcare provider. Well, you all, this is another segment of Menopause Rebranded. I am your host, Carlika Katrina Basnight-Menendez. Yes, all of that. Until the next time, stay cool. And remember, like his magazine said, you're in your hot years, and that is okay. Keep thriving.